to week 2 of the spring 2021. I have to remember to say 21 instead of say 2020. So today we're talking about grips, stances, and how they affect what type of shot we hit, which means what grip will affect whether we hit topspin, whether we hit slice, whether we hit a flat ball, or anything else that sort. In today's lesson is going to be mostly only on, or those words go together anyway, mostly on forehanded backhand ground strokes and forehanded backhand lobs. And we'll separate that out by section, so we have quite a few things to go over today. So Jane and Mary have volunteered, because they got these super duper gifts, but they volunteered to come back to talk to you about grips. So they're going to show you individually their grips. Then we're going to go out and we're going to hit shots. I'm going to feed some balls in and we're going to hit shots. And I'm going to talk about those shots that they hit when they come out. So you'll see that some of the stances are a little bit more open, some are a little bit more closed, some are a little bit between shoulders and hips, some are between hips and knees, so things of that sort. So Jane volunteered to go first because Mary said she had to. And Jane's going to come in. She's going to come in really close to the net there. And she's going to show you the grip of her racket right here. And we're going to talk about this. So her grip right now, we have our choices of Continental, which we've already worked on. Continental was the grip that we talked about for a handshake grip. Okay, so now we need to talk about the Eastern and the Western grips, which are more so away from the Continental or the handshake grip. And then we have a semi-Eastern and a semi-Western. And I was just saying how it happens that we think about Eastern and Western would be like directions that you go by, north, south, east, and west, but they're not actually that way. Almost all of them are to the right, which means to the right side, or what you would think it would be the east side of the compass. So right now, whatever her name is, Jane, not Shane, Jane is showing us the semi-western grip. Semi-western grip, which is what she uses for the forehand, semi-western. So look at it from that position, and then look at it from the grip that she uses when she actually contacts the ball. And the semi-western usually puts top spin on the ball, which is what Jane hits. That means she's going to brush up underneath the ball, circular movement, and it's going to come up and then have a nice bounce afterwards. That's why it's called top spin. So semi-western is usually hit between hips and shoulders, so a little bit higher up. I'll come up last because mine's a flat ball, which doesn't do anything. It stays low, flat, and it also has a little bit of slice on the backhand, so that's what we're talking about that. Now her grip for the backhand, so she's going to show you both of them right now at the same time. Do you see how she used her free hand to change the racket? Her free hand, remember it's a non-dominant hand, the non-dominant, in this case the left hand, that changes your grip for you. Now look at from the backhand view of how she's come all the way around on it. See the difference right there? So she's going to get, her backhand is going to be an Eastern backhand. Did I say that right? Which is going to be at times can be flat or have some top spin on it. So both of those could be into play right there. So that's what we're going to be looking at from Jane. We're going to be looking at her racket preparation and getting ready for it and how she actually hits it. So you won't see where it lands, but you'll see where she makes contact as she goes along. Thank you, Jane. You did a wonderful job. Next up is Mary. She can hardly wait to come, and she's thinking about her grip as she comes up. So we were just talking about Eastern grip. So now we're talking about the semi-Western grip. So semi-Western forehand. Semi-Western forehands, and for at times this says extreme top spin, and this is really what Mary does, extreme top spin for her forehand. So look how far she's moved her hand around on her racket. And we talked about this in the first part of the first semester for those of you that have taken before. We talked about how there are 4 quarter quadrants and then 4 1/8 quadrants. You've got really 8 parts of your racket. That's why the talk of the semi comes in and just the regular Eastern or Western. So this would be with a lot of topspin for a forehand. So now let's look at her backhand, okay? So Mary can hit a one-handed backhand, but most of her backhands are going to have a slice on them. So they're going to have a little bit of a slice. She can hit a topspin, but she's going to have a slice on it. So see how, again, how she's kept her. What I want you to see there from this angle is how straight her arms are. Straighten right into where her wrists keep her racket right in alignment. See how she's going to hit and come across that ball? right there. She can hit it with some topspin, but for her, she's going to come up and over at times, and that way she can slice it as she brushes across the ball. So those are the things that we are looking at today. Now, I won't make any of those test questions as much as I will want you to tell me back that there are continental grips, eastern grips, western grips, and that the difference between a continental, which is sometimes called a handshake grip, is that you can do an eastern or western as a semi in between. So don't forget to go back to the fundamentals in order for you to get all this taken care of. That's what's going to help us. So both the ladies are going to move back towards, say, they're going to be right in front of the baseline so we can see them a little bit closer. We don't really care right now about where the ball is going as much as you watching what they're going to hit. So I'm going to feed them balls to their forehand and backhand, and we're going to concentrate on hitting ground strokes right now. Then we'll go into lobs. So watch them as they get ready. Watch them as they hold their rackets in place right now, that you can see how they are in ready position. Notice that they are ready to hit a backhand, because remember, it's easier to take the racket hand off and quicker than it is to add to it. So watch them switch around between their forehands and their backhands. Now watch also too if they get ready to back up to hit a ball. Notice how then they go forward to return it. Forward to return it. Now you an overhead, which is what we don't want to see, is someone can go in and hit an overhead off of a lob. We want that lob over their head. These ladies are doing a super job of getting these lobs over. That was a tacky feed right there. Good. Okay, now I want you to see how they're going to direct the ball. So these are cross court. So any ball that's hit is going to go cross court. So if Mary hits a forehand, it goes cross court to the forehand side. If Jane hits a backhand, it goes to the backhand side. Or if she hits a forehand, meaning Jane, and she's in the middle, she can do what's called an inside out, which means that she hits her forehand cross court. Now Mary could do the same thing on her backhand. She could take her backhand, run around it, and hit cross court to her forehand if she wanted to. She could put all of those into play. So that's always the thought. Now think about how consistent these ladies are right now. Think about all these wonderful balls that they're hitting. That they're getting all these balls in play right now. They're just doing a super job of it. So that's consistency, which we've talked about that a lot, is the consistency. So those are the things we're looking at. Now I'm going to leave Mary over there, and I'm going to tell Jane to come over here with me. So Jane's going to run over here lickety-split, and Mary's going to keep hitting those balls until Jane gets over here. She's going to mix them up, and then Jane's going to beat the balls. She's going to beat the balls to me and Mary so that you can see the difference between a flat ball and top spin. All of these are very effective, but there are sometimes you want to hit one shot different from the other. Ready position, backhand slice, forehand flat ball. You can feed some to Mary if you want. So you can see the difference between having a one hand and a two hand. You've got more extension to come up. You can reach a little further to the ball. You can guide it a little bit more. The open for the follow-through is a little bit different. The effect, though, is the same, that we're trying to clear the net, and we're always in ready position. So mine's a little flatter that I hit out. So I have to watch more about making sure my balls are high enough that they get over the net, which they have to worry about their balls not going so deep. So those are the things that we worry or think about as we're going. But you'll notice we both have early racket preparation, and we're both thinking that each ball will be for us. So we're always trying to be ready to hit it. That's our goal, is to be ready to hit it. So remember, I've got a continental grip, which is more of a handshake grip, to guide mine over. Because the other ladies are having a little bit more that they're hitting top spin. All of these are very balanced, but again, consistency is the thing that we want to work on the most. So she's making a run now. So all of these are things that we're going to think about. Yep. A little off-center there I was. But the point is that we all have our sweet spots that we want to go for. And those are the things that we keep thinking about. Plus, you'll notice that we always try to reorganize ourselves so that if we have to go forward, then we're going to back up to still get the ball over. We don't want to be caught off guard by standing still. We want to make sure we keep the ball into play. So she's got one more. Oh, there's the lob over Jane's head. So watch a couple more. She's only got two more to do as we get going over here. So we are finished up for this first little part here. It's going to talk about grips, stance, top spin, or a little bit of slice. those are the things we're looking at today. I decided to make the words for this semester going on with rackets. So our first word for this week, which is our 2.5, is going to be Wilson, like a Wilson racket. That means it would have a W on the bottom of it. So next week I will have a different type of racket. I've got a whole bunch of them in mind, but Wilson is this very first one. So be sure when you do your submissions about what we just went over that you have the word, you don't have to use it as part of it, but make sure you mention Wilson so that I'll know that you watched the whole video on this section, because that's what's really important. Knowing the type of grips, the differences, knowing the stances, knowing how it affects you, whether you hit a flat ball, a top spin, or maybe a little bit of slice involved in it. So we will see you next week with the third or 3.5 supplement for next week. Thank you very much.